These two apps did not exist this morning. Same job, a habit tracker, but they were built by two different AIs on this PC from the exact same single sentence, and I never touched the keyboard again. One was built by Claude Opus 4.8, until last week the best AI money could buy. The other by Fable 5, the brand new model that costs exactly double. The benchmarks say the gap between them is huge, but a benchmark is a press release with maths. Nobody shows you what double the price actually looks like on a real task. So I measured it. Builds, bugs, stopwatch, scorecard. Here's the honest head-to-head. Here's the plan, because this is a real test, not a vibe check. 1. The rules. Both models get the same one-sentence brief, word for word in fresh, empty folders, 0 follow-ups, 0 fixes from me. 2. You'll watch both builds actually happen. Real screen recordings, real stopwatch. 3. I use both apps properly, hunt for bugs, and score them on the same 8-point card. No favorites. And 4. The money. Fable costs double per token, and it's free to try on paid Claude plans only until June the 22nd. By the end, you'll know exactly which model your work actually needs. Meet the fighters. In the blue corner, Opus 4.8, the model most serious AI work runs on today. $5 per million tokens in, 25 out. In the vault corner, Fable 5, released 2 days ago, the first public model in Anthropic's new Mythos class, a whole tier above Opus. $10 in, 50 out, exactly double. And the fine print is sneakier than the sticker. Anthropic's own migration docs say Fable's new tokenizer splits the same text into roughly 30% more tokens. So on a big job, the real bill climbs even faster than the price list. Now what do they claim you get for all that? On the headline agentic coding benchmark, Fable scores 80% to Opus's 69, a different league on paper, but those are their numbers, on their tests, in their slides. I wanted receipts of my own. So here's my test. 1 sentence, deliberately greedy. Build a complete habit tracker app in a single file. Add and delete habits, daily checkoffs, current and best streaks for every habit, a weekly chart, a little celebration on every tick, full confetti on a perfect day, saved data, 3 weeks of believable sample history, premium dark neon look. Finished product, not a demo. Both models got that sentence word for word through Claude Code in fire and forget mode. You send it, you walk away. Fresh, empty folder each. No follow-ups, no fixes, no hints. And one more thing kept it honest. Neither model was allowed to run its own code. Both tried, both got denied, both had to ship blind. 1 sentence in, 1 app out, judged on what actually lands on the screen. Watch them work. These are the real recordings. Fable thinks for about a minute, then pours the entire application out in one go. 973 lines into a single file. Then it does my favorite thing in this whole experiment. It reads its own code back, catches 2 real mistakes, a leftover junk expression and a misaligned chart grid line, and fixes both before I've seen a single frame. It even named its app Ritual. Opus walks the same road with a heavier pen. 919 lines, a bigger file, its own review pass at the end. It called its app Habit Flow. And here's the first shock of the day. The stopwatch. Fable, 6 minutes 37. Opus, 6 minutes 38, 1 second apart. A dead heat. The double price model is not faster, so if it's better, it has to win on what it built. So let's use them. Real recorded interaction, first time either app was ever opened. Ritual first. 5 habits, 3 weeks of believable history, and everything the brief asked for is just there. I tick habits off one by one. Every tick pops with a tiny burst of confetti right at the dot. Streaks climb, the weekly chart redraws itself live, and when I finish the last habit, the whole screen erupts. Perfect day. I can even reach back and fix yesterday. Tap any dot in the week and the streaks recalculate instantly. 0 errors in the console, not 1 bug. Now habit flow. And honestly, it's gorgeous. A proper dashboard, stat tiles, a momentum chart up top, an add habit window with color palettes, and a live preview. Same confetti moment, same 0 errors. But hunting for differences, I found one that matters. Those little weak dots are just decoration. You can only ever log today. Miss a day in habit flow, and your history is wrong forever. Small thing, right up until it isn't. The scorecard then, same 8 criteria for both, no favorites. Ran first time, 10 and 10. Bugs found in real use, none in either, 10 and 10. Sample data, visual polish, I genuinely could not separate them, 9s across the board. Fable edges the micro-interactions for that localized confetti. It edges the build process for catching its own mistakes before shipping, and it takes the coverage point because its history is editable and habit flows isn't. Final score, Fable 75, Opus 72, 3 points. Let that sink in. After the new tier, the launch hype, the 80 versus 69, on a real, well-specified app brief, the old king delivered 96% of the new model's score. That's the part nobody's telling you this week. It's one task, on one machine, your mileage will vary, but those are my receipts. So, is it worth double? Here's the maths nobody does on launch week. Priced at API rates, my Fable run would have cost about $2.46. The identical Opus run, about $1.33, nearly twice the bill for a 3-point win. And remember the tokenizer. Same text, roughly 30% more tokens, so on big jobs, the gap compounds. Honest verdict, 2 columns. Stay on Opus when your work looks like this test. Well-specified, single artifact builds, everyday coding, anything where you can describe done up front. Half the price buys you 96% of the result. Pay for Fable when the job is the other kind. Hours-long autonomous runs, whole code bases, deep research that has to come back finished. That's where the benchmarks and my own launch day test of Fable say this stops being a 3-point game and starts being a class difference. Match the model to the job, not to the launch hype. Here's the move, and the clock matters. Until June the 22nd, Fable 5 is included free in paid Claude plans. After that, it moves behind usage credits. So don't take my word for any of this. The test costs you nothing right now. Step 1, open Claude, the app, or Claude Code, and switch the model to Fable 5 while it's free. Step 2, pick one real task from your actual week, not a toy, something you genuinely hand to a contractor, described properly in one message. Step 3, run the same brief on Opus, then on Fable, and judge the 2 results side by side, exactly like I just did. 10 minutes and you'll know, for your work, not mine, whether double is worth it. So that's the real answer, was not the benchmark slide, the receipts. If you want to run this exact experiment, comment the word versus and I'll send you my 1-sentence brief, plus the setup I used, free. Subscribe if you want the big AI claims tested for real, not read out loud. And if you're wondering what Fable 5 can really do when you give it something wild, watch the video where Anthropic called this model too dangerous, and I tested it on launch day. See you in the next one.